Those that tasted the bite of his sword named him the Doomslayer.
The Doom franchise is a name that is synonymous with the shooter genre. It was the gem of shooters in the 90s, and while it fell on hard times in the 2000s and 2010s, id Software brought the series to new heights with the shock hit Doom 2016. Prior to the reboot of the franchise in 2016, the Doom franchise was floundering. Long forgotten were the glory days of the 90s, and the franchise was mostly considered dead. The most recent release, Doom 3 in 2004, was not well received, as it went away from its traditional arena shooter roots towards a more narrative horror experience. This shift in direction was not well received by fans, and was mostly considered a failure by both id Software and the general public. And for a full decade, Doom was silent with no releases. For the most part, Doom fell out of the public consciousness, with most people thinking that a game like Doom, an arena shooter, just didn't have a place in today's gaming, that it was a relic. However, in 2014, id Software shocked the world with the announcement of a reboot of the franchise titled simply Doom. Now, this announcement was met with a lot of skepticism. For one, the previous game, as we already mentioned, Doom 3, was not well received, and it really left a sour taste in most people's mouths, as it was such a departure from what fans of the series expected, and it just wasn't executed very well. Additionally, there were leaks of a Doom 4 that was in development prior to this reboot that left fans extremely underwhelmed. It looked extremely generic, with a lot of fans accusing it of being a Call of Duty clone. Couple that with the very anticipated yet very disappointing id Software game Rage in 2011, and things were not looking good for the Doom franchise. However, the trailer looked promising, and fans were cautiously optimistic. When the game came out in 2016, all of those fears were put to rest. The game was extremely well received and sold very well, and was even greenlit for a future installment in the series. Doom was finally in the modern era. It took what made classic Doom so good, hectic arenas with lots of demons, and that feeling of being an unstoppable force. But yet it made room for a narrative. There was a cohesive story that tied in between each arena and each fight. Doom 2016 was the start of something truly incredible, and the series has gone on to be incredibly successful with further titles like Doom Eternal and the somewhat divisive Doom the Dark Ages. But Doom 2016 was the start of all of that. Just to let you guys know, we will be discussing spoilers from here on, so if you haven't played Doom 2016, please go ahead and play that and come back to this video if you want, but this is your warning, spoilers from here on will be discussed. The year is 2095, and the Earth is facing an energy crisis with no clear means of remedy. All of that changes when a new source of energy is discovered on Mars by the UAC, known as Argent Energy. As far as anybody is concerned, Argent Energy is naturally occurring. However, the actual source of Argent Energy is from a rupture between our dimension and Hell. It is at this rupture, known as the Argent Fracture, where the Helix Stone is discovered. In the stone is the key to harvesting the energies of Hell, and contains references to a being known as the Doomslayer. Shortly after this discovery, the UAC names the brilliant Dr. Samuel Hayden as chairman of the UAC and head of the facility on Mars that is set to harvest this new energy source. Dr. Hayden brings in his associate, Dr. Olivia Pierce, as head of the Lazarus Project, whose primary responsibility is deciphering the Helix Stone and learning its secrets. the UAC and Dr. Hayden commissioned the construction of the Argent Tower, which is able to take raw Argent plasma and convert it into Argent energy. During the construction of this tower, however, Dr. Hayden is diagnosed with stage 4 brain cancer. With only months to live, he transfers his consciousness into a mechanical body, with technology in a body that nobody fully understands, bar Dr. Hayden himself. With this new body, Dr. Hayden is virtually immortal and is able to delve into his work anew. It was around this time that Vega was created, the first truly autonomous artificial intelligence, and the brainchild of Dr. Hayden. No one person truly understands the extent of Vega's potential and power, nor do they fully understand how he works, except for perhaps Dr. Hayden. Vega would be responsible for controlling the flow of Argent energy, as well as the day-to-day operations of the Mars complex, with over 60,000 employees. In 2127, the Argent Tower is completed, and UAC teams are able to venture into Hell to find the source of Argent energy, and bring anything of interest back to Mars. In the course of their missions, UAC teams discover a place known as the Well, the source of Argent energy on Hell. It was here that the UAC would extract Argent plasma to be converted into Argent energy, and subsequently sent to Earth. The Well was not the only thing discovered during their expeditions. Led by Dr. Samuel Hayden himself, the UAC discovered a sealed tomb. Its entrance and the walls of the tomb are covered in protective runes and imprisonment incantations. Inside the tomb, they find many artifacts, including a set of armor known as the Praetor suit. In the center of the tomb was a large sarcophagus anchored to the floor and covered in thick iron chains to prevent anyone from getting in or getting out. Upon this sarcophagus bared the mark of the Doomslayer. Dr. Hayden orders the contents of this tomb, as well as the sarcophagus, be brought back to Mars for further study. The prevailing theory regarding this sarcophagus is that it contains a powerful and rare specimen of demon. However, when it is opened, it is revealed that it housed a man. The body was perfectly preserved, and he appeared to be alive. A protective barrier encased the man, and any attempt to wake him failed. Under study, it was revealed that he has been in this state for over a millennia. Dr. Olivia Pierce, as previously stated, was the head of the Lazarus Project, but she was also the protege of Dr. Hayden, and it was him that convinced her to join the project. A few months after joining the project, she was diagnosed with acute idiopathic scoliosis, the cause of which was unknown. At this point, Dr. Pierce was faced with a choice: accept being permanently bound to a wheelchair, or undergo an experimental augmentation procedure, which would encase her body in a titanium exoskeleton. She chose to undergo the procedure, and after a few months, she was seen on her feet once again. The surgery was a success, though it was not without consequences. The exoskeleton caused her excruciating pain, and she refused any pain treatment, as she feared it would cloud her mind. As Dr. Pierce continued to study the Helix Stone, she became obsessed with Hell, as the stone itself was corrupting her mind. Dr. Hayden and the board of the UAC knew she had become fixated on the occult, though they knew not the extent, and since she was still providing results, they were willing to look the other way for now. At some point in the course of her study, she is contacted by a demon lord, upon where she makes a deal. She will be cured of her illness and given tremendous power, and in her words, become a god. In exchange for this, she agrees to facilitate Hell's invasion of Mars, and subsequently Earth if all goes according to plan. In accordance with this plan, Dr. Pierce begins recruiting members of the Lazarus Project into a demon-worshipping cult who began conducting rituals and human sacrifices to encourage the openings of portals to Hell, where demons could spew forth. These efforts succeeded, and portals began opening, allowing demons to run freely in the Mars complex. Pierce also released the demons that had been captured in the UAC's expeditions to Hell. As Hell's forces flooded into the Mars facility, the staff were all killed, or if they were unlucky enough, they were possessed and added to the forces of hell. It was at this point that Dr. Hayden learned the extent of Dr. Pierce's corruption. He locked himself in his office and remotely activated the sarcophagus that held the Slayer. As the Doomslayer awoke, he found himself chained to a table, with possessed Mars complex staff surrounding him. He is able to break free of the chains, retrieve a pistol, and kill those possessed workers. As he leaves, he recovers his Praetor suit and learns that a full-scale invasion has begun of the Mars complex, though the cause of this invasion cannot be determined until a satellite at the complex has been brought online, upon which time he is contacted by Dr. Samuel Hayden, who tells him that he is the head of this facility and that while things may have gotten out of hand, he can assure him that it was well worth the risk,
and says that they can work together to resolve this issue.
The Slayer makes his way through a multitude of demons to get to the satellite and bring it online. On his way, the Slayer discovers a recording from Dr. Olivia Pierce, showing her to be the culprit behind this invasion. The Slayer makes it to the satellite and brings it online, though his access is blocked by Dr. Hayden, who tells him to make his way to the Vega terminal, and he will give him the information he seeks. Once at the terminal, the Slayer learns that the cause of the invasion is from a hell wave that originated at the Lazarus facility, and that 64% of all UAC employees were turned into the demons that the Slayer has been fighting. The rest of the UAC staff were all killed by the demons released from their holding cells by Olivia Pierce. At this time, Vega alerts the Slayer that the core temperatures at the foundry have been destabilized. The facility is overrun by demons, and if the core temperatures are not brought down, then nothing will survive the resulting meltdown. The Slayer makes his way to the foundry and fights through a number of demons to bring the turbines back online and stabilize the temperatures. While there, the Slayer runs into Dr. Olivia Pierce at the Foundry Command Center, who uses the center to reroute all power to the Argent Tower in an attempt to open a permanent portal to Hell. The Slayer must travel to the surface to manually shut down the tower before Dr. Pierce succeeds in opening the portal. In order to shut down the tower, the Slayer destroys the 3 Argent filters powering the tower, despite Dr. Hayden's pleas to merely temporarily disable the filters. With the filters destroyed, the tower powers down. This is not the end, however, as Dr. Pierce had acquired an Argent accumulator that she plans to use to open a portal with or without the Argent Tower. The Slayer works his way to the top of the Argent Tower, fighting through hordes of demons to do so. Once at the top, he encounters Olivia Pierce, with accumulator in hand. She activates the device and throws herself into the portal. The resulting explosion also engulfs the Slayer, who is transported to Hell. Upon arriving in Hell, he learns that UAC personnel had been conducting operations inside of Hell, and that they had set up an exit portal at a tomb. The personnel had set up beacons so they could follow it back to the exit. The Slayer follows these beacons, fighting his way through countless demons as they attempt to stop him. The Slayer makes it to the tomb, and it is clear that this is where he has been held for a millennia. He takes the portal and is transported back to Mars. Upon his return, the Slayer finds that the facility has been destroyed, as countless demons have spewed forth from the portal. Dr. Hayden contacts the Slayer and tells him that the portal can no longer be closed from Mars. He tells him that he must travel to Dr. Pierce's private office in the Lazarus facility and find an artifact known as the Helix Stone. From this, they learn the secrets to Argent energy, and since it bears the Slayer's mark, Dr. Hayden believes that he will find something from it that will help them close the portal. On his way to the Lazarus facility, he is contacted by Dr. Hayden, who says it is time to meet in person. The Slayer goes to his office, where Dr. Hayden installs a tethered device to the Praetor suit, which will allow him to pull the Slayer back from Hell should the need arise. From there, the Slayer again must fight his way through the hordes of Hell until he finally makes it to Dr. Pierce's office. From the Helix Stone, the Slayer learns in order to close the portal, he needs to acquire something called the Crucible. The Crucible, however, is back in Hell, and the only way to get back to Hell is to rupture another Argent accumulator. Again, the Slayer works his way through the facility where he finds the accumulator. However, it is housed in the chest of a massive demon called the Cyber Demon. The Slayer defeats this Cyber Demon, removing the accumulator from his chest, whereupon the Cyber Demon falls lifeless to the floor. Rupturing the accumulator, both the Slayer and the Cyber Demon are hurled back to Hell. Once in Hell, the Cyber Demon is shocked with some form of energy, resurrecting him, and the Slayer must once again defeat him. With the Cyber Demon dead, the Slayer makes his way across the plains of Hell, killing any demon that dares face him. Eventually, he arrives at the Crucible's location, where he is confronted by beings known as Hell Guards. The Slayer handily defeats these guards and retrieves the Crucible, at which point Dr. Hayden uses the tether system and pulls the Slayer back to Mars. On Mars, he learns that the portal is being powered by something called the Well. With the Crucible, the Slayer will be able to shut down the Well. However, in order to have enough power to send him there, the power of Vega himself must be used. Vega instructs the Slayer in how to overload his systems and cause a meltdown of Vega's core, so as to have enough power to send him back to Hell. Before finishing the process, the Slayer creates a backup of Vega. With this complete, the Slayer is sent back to Hell one last time. With the Crucible in hand, the Slayer carves through demons as he releases 3 wraiths that were being held captive and used to power the Well. With the wraiths freed, the power to the Well is lost, and the portal back on Mars is closed. As he is guided on by the wraiths, he encounters Dr. Olivia Pierce, who appears broken and bruised, and realizes how she had been merely a pawn in the Demon Lord's plan. As she is speaking, she is struck by a blast of Argent energy, where she is transformed into the Spider Mastermind, a demon of considerable strength. The Slayer fights the Spider Mastermind and is able to defeat the demon, and with it, finally put an end to this invasion once and for all. Dr. Hayden activates the tether, bringing the Doomslayer back to Mars. However, this time, the Slayer finds himself caught in a stasis field. Dr. Hayden approaches, telling him that at a great price they have won. Argent and Vega are gone, but with the Crucible, they can continue their work. Dr. Hayden states that he cannot allow the Slayer to interfere with their work. He takes the Crucible from the Slayer, and the story ends with Dr. Hayden walking away, Crucible in hand. I am a massive fan of Doom, as you can probably tell by the posters on my wall here. The Doom games just scratch an itch like no other games managed to do for me. Doom 2016 is now almost a decade old, and it felt like the right time to do a review for it. Now, despite the game being almost 10 years old, the game does not feel old or dated at all. The visuals are still phenomenal. The gameplay is crisp and smooth, and it just makes you feel so powerful. I was really blown away coming back to this game. Just in the opening scene, it looks so amazing. The light reflecting off of the pistol, the lighting in the room, the design of the demons, it all just works so well. And the visuals for the rest of the game also hold up incredibly well. It just looks amazing. The best part of this game for me is the music. I feel like I don't even really need to explain that. But the music is so good, and it really puts you into a flow state as you're playing. I also really enjoyed just how dynamic the soundtrack was. It changes depending on what you're doing in unique circumstances. For instance, when you chainsaw a demon, the music changes and almost goes in rhythm with the sound of a chainsaw, and I just thought that was a really cool idea to incorporate into the game. The other thing I just can't get enough of is the glory kills. It's like gory poetry, and it just matches the vibe of the game so well. You're the Doom guy, and you're gonna kill those demons in cool ways. Slight aside, I cannot for the life of me understand why Doom the Dark Ages decided to get rid of glory kills for the most part. That decision just boggles my mind, and the absence of it really emphasized for me just how much I love glory kills in Doom 2016 and Doom Eternal. Not only is it stylistically cool, but it also provides a lull in the action. It allows you to catch your breath in the middle of a super chaotic and confusing fight. The gameplay is still incredible, It feels so good running around and killing demons. All of the guns are well designed and they feel powerful. Your equipment is useful, and all of it just works really well. The story, I think, is very good in this. It is very simple and straightforward, but you don't want to detract too much from the demon killing, and I like the approach that id Software takes to storytelling in these games. It can be as in-depth or as simple as the player really wants it to be. If you want to just kill demons and feel invincible and not really worry about the story all that much, then this game has got you covered. But if you're curious about the different things that you're seeing and the characters that you're interacting with, then there are codexes scattered around the map that delve into that a little bit more and explain the lore of the game. And all of that is optional. And just in general, the game does a really good job with optional material. It never feels like you are forced to go and get optional material. It is always completely up to the player. And the optional material is laid out in a way that makes exploration really interesting. The maps are very linear, but it has a semi-open world feel to it where there are secrets and little secret paths scattered everywhere with different things to grab that it makes it feel like you have a lot more freedom than you actually have. I'm not going to comment on the multiplayer side of this game, as I have honestly never played that game mode. And for me, Doom is not a game I play for multiplayer anyways, though I know it wasn't particularly well received and had some criticisms as being generic, though I don't think that detracts from this game at all. I think Doom 2016 deserves a ton of credit. It brought Doom back from the dead. It proved that arena shooters still have a place in today's gaming culture. The game holds up incredibly well and is just as good today as it was in 2016, and I think it's a masterpiece. It is the purest shooter experience. You are the final boss. The music comes on when you enter a room. Doom 2016 is a masterpiece, and I definitely recommend it to anybody that is into shooters. You won't be disappointed. Thank you guys again for watching my video. I really appreciate it. If you liked the video, please like it. If you want to see more from me, please go ahead and subscribe. It means a lot. But just you guys being here and watching it means a ton to me. I have a ton of fun making these videos. So if you like these longer form videos, kind of delving into the lore a little bit, let me know. I've been really enjoying that. Catch me on Twitch and on YouTube. I stream there pretty regularly, so appreciate you guys. Later.